I'm very jet lagged, and I have a good reason for that. I was on a trip, and a very good trip at that. I went to France for the last week. I was there for about 8 days. My dad had a conference over there, and I decided to join him. It's very enjoyable. I'm about to give you a play by play, step by step, day by day of my entire trip and the pros and cons of going to France. If you're wondering where I went to Paris for 3 of those days and Lyon for 4 of those days. Pretty much, if you don't know where that is, Lyon's pretty much in the bottom kind of part of France, and Paris as well. In Paris, they have the Eiffel Tower and bread. That's about it. Anyways, starting off with day one, it was an insanely full plane. Obviously, Paris is a very popular place. Everyone wants to go there, and flying out of also another major city, because I live in a smaller town near a major city, there's going to be a lot of people. It was a very large plane, a very long flight as well. It was about 8 hours. Weird time difference, so we left, and it's an 8 hour flight, but time only changed for about 2 hours because of the time difference. Because there's about an 8 hour time difference with a 2 hour flight, with a 8 hour flight. So there was a baby crying the whole way, pretty much, for the plane ride, which is quite annoying, but it is what it is. Also, it was an extremely loud plane because it was so big. So, Elon Musk, please get on making an electric plane. It would be greatly appreciated. And if it's as quiet as a Tesla, which I've never been in, that would probably be the best invention you could do. Um, Honestly, good food on the plane, some Indian food. Nothing very exciting going on there. Now, getting to France, I've never been to Europe. I have lived around the world. I've never been to Europe, though. Never had a chance. It's quite interesting. There's a lot of smokers, mostly cigarettes, which is quite interesting because here you don't see many people smoke cigarettes. In the States, you see a lot more vaping, which there obviously there was people that vaped as well, but it was a lot more of cigarettes than vaping. Um, it also had nice forest and tree areas. It wasn't just a crammed city like somewhere like New York or something like that, where it's just going to be a cut off forest or tree area around all these tall buildings. They actually had legit forest and things like that, which I appreciated because they actually took that into play and took that into mind. Now, this is all on the first day, by the way, so just also keep that in mind. Tons of scooters, especially these weird little three-wheeler scooters. It was like a spider bike, but it was like super small. Don't know what that's about. I think that's just a lot of major cities, though. Like, I used to live in a large city in South America, and it was just a ton of motorcycles and a ton of scooters, just a lot more fuel efficient, a lot more reasonable. Also, a lot of the rental electric scooters, just like how you'd see in any major city anywhere in the U.S. But these were used by almost anyone, and a lot of people own them as well. So quite interesting. It was a very small hotel. This is very common in Europe that I found out. I was sharing a room, and it was pretty much a single bed. They called it a twin, but I'm about almost 6 foot, and my feet were hanging off the end, but it was quite nice, and like it was tidy, so I didn't really mind. There's two single beds, like pretty much put exactly right next to each other, and then there's about a foot on each side, and then 2 feet on the bottom of room in the room, and then there was a tiny bathroom that had no shower curtain, just a tub and the shower head, and then a little nice little toilet and sink area. This is a very small hotel, but that is quite common in Europe to have. It's quite small areas, or at least in France, I should say, quite small areas. The taxis were on strike at the time, so we got pretty much like scammed out of a ton of money because we got a ride from the airport, and it was like an hour ride to our hotel, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be like 80 euros," and then he's like, "Oh, now it's like 120," and like we kind of met in the middle because like a lot of the taxis are on strike, and we noticed that as well because we had to take a lot of public transportation. Is that a lot of places were on strike, so kind of weird, but that was also common in a lot of big cities I've lived in. So a lot of sushi places I noticed, a lot of Vietnamese, Asian, Chinese restaurants as well. which is also kind of interesting. But they also had a lot more options, which I liked. They had a lot of art in a lot of the restaurants, which I liked, and it wasn't like corny like hotel art. It was like legit, nice hand painted art. Food is good and cheap there. I was looking up some statistics before I got there, and it was something along the lines of France has about a 10% lower cost of living, I think it was, and then everything is about 15% cheaper. And I noticed that something as simple as orange juice was like less than $1 for a liter of orange juice. Like, it's a lot cheaper. And even the food, like at a nice restaurant, like you can get a very nice meal for around $20, where here would be like 35. So very nice for like traveling. So on the first day, we're all very like jet lagged. We went to this weird pyramid thing that had this big tower of stuff in it. I honestly didn't remember what it was called. Honestly, I was just more interested in the architecture. A lot of people just taking really annoying photos. I hate watching tourists. They make me like have secondhand embarrassment the whole time. Like, I just hate it. And like, I hate being a tourist, like where I don't know the language, which I don't know French. I hate like that embarrassment and that just that feeling of like trying to not fit in, because I swear tourists just try not to fit in and try to just be an American, and that's the most annoying thing. Like, if you're gonna be in another city in another country, at least try to fit in, and at least try to be like respectful. At least try to do that. Another thing I noticed, there's a lot of Gucci and Rolex ads. You don't see that a lot in the US. It's quite interesting. Tons of languages being spoke there. Also kind of interesting. Also, all my ads on YouTube, that if I was ever watching YouTube at night, they're all in French, which obviously makes sense because now my location is France. So day 2, noticed a lot more of the crazy drivers in France. Obviously, like, traffic laws and stuff are a lot different in big cities because they just ignore signs, but kind of interesting. Like, there was a near miss every like 30 seconds. We saw a couple accidents, but nothing like major. We went and saw Notre Dame. It was under construction, so you can't go in, but quite interesting to learn about it. Kind of cool. We went to like a lot of the stores. Also, I noticed is that a lot of them don't have QR codes on the bottom, like how you'd see in a regular store. Like, you flip over a cup at a store on the bottom, and there's a QR code for like the store to scan. But a lot of them, you just bring up a shirt or something, and they'd be like, oh yeah, it's $30 or something, or like $20. Like, they just kind of have the prices in their head or have a list, or they just sell it to you based on how you are to them or what they think that they should sell it as. They still have like American type food, you could say. It's more not American type food, it's more just like name brand food, like Domino's or like McDonald's. But the way I looked at it is like you could go to all these nice diners and like homey places in America, like all these homey diners, but like you go to McDonald's and Domino's, and it's exactly same as France. Like, France has all these nice little street corner places, like all these nice little places that have like good pizza and good pasta and stuff, but people will still go to McDonald's and like Domino's just because it's probably quicker and easier and open later. So kind of interesting. They had the little sippy cup biodegradable lids in on McDonald cups. I noticed people walking around with, which I quite liked because obviously like it was like made out of like cardboard and not like plastic, and it wasn't like straws. Kind of cool. Like, they're a little bit more environmentally conscious than the US. Also, French trap music is my new favorite music. The French rap, very cool. We even like it's even come with like police to smoke and vape. I was noticing that. Like, we walked by some big like castles and stuff, and there was like even like the police officers standing guard were like smoking and vaping. Kind of interesting. We went and saw the Eiffel Tower on day 1. Honestly, it's cool. Like, I think it's insanely overhyped though. I think more of what's cool is thinking about like the construction of it and how it was built a long time ago, and they had like very limited like technology versus like nowadays, if it was built nowadays. And just thinking about people like pretty much just risking their lives to like build the Eiffel Tower. But it was kind of cool. Like, we got to see it at night, and there was like a light show and stuff that gave me epilepsy, and it was a cool thing to see. Like, it is like something that everyone probably should go see just because it's something to see, but I don't know. I think it's insanely overhyped, and we didn't even get to go up it, which is something that probably would have been cooler, but I don't know. Just something that is, and even you'll see that even with like, if you ask like a French person about it, I was talking to some vendor guy, and he was like, yeah, I like, it's just a big pile of metal, like it's not nothing special. But I guess that's just anything with, if you're local there, so. Also, I noticed at night, because we were walking around probably like 9 o'clock at night, it's insanely safe. Like, there was like parents talking on their phone with a little kid dawdling behind them. Like, no worry in the world. Like, there's people like walking around, like, no worries. Like, there's a lot of lights at night, and like, it feels very safe at night, and it's insanely quiet, which was very weird. Like, no horns honking, no like people yelling like you hear in like New York or something. Like, nothing like that. Like, there was like the occasional siren, but like nothing like extreme. It was quite weird. It was very, very weird. Day two, we went to we got on a metro, which is insanely busy, just like any main city. But I haven't lived in a big city for a while, so it was quite interesting to be on the metro. And I've actually never been on the metro, so it was packed, but everyone's insanely polite. Like, they'll get on to let some lady on, or they'll get off to let someone on, or if like someone has a stroller or like a big plant, which I also got to see the stereotypical like New York plant that someone was bringing. Some lady brought in like a full-on freaking Christmas tree onto it. It's quite interesting. There's also a double-decker metro, which was quite interesting. I didn't know that existed. It had like an upstairs, kind of cool. We went and saw the Chateau Versailles. I believe it's called. It had an extremely long line, because it's obviously very popular, but it was extremely beautiful architecture, just like everything in Europe and France. It's very old, but the reason it's so old is because they haven't had to touch it for 200 to 500 years because the architecture was so spot on. Very interesting to learn about it. Also, when we walked out of the Chateau Versailles garden place thingy, forgot what it was called. The gift shop that we were just in was taped off, and there's police with like heavy assault rifles and police dogs like searching it. So I have no idea what happened in there. Probably someone stole something or someone stabbed someone. I have no idea. It was quite interesting though to think about all the possibilities of what went on in that gift shop. Like quite literally like 5 minutes after we left. But yeah. Another thing, corn syrup is banned in I believe it's Europe. I don't know if it's actually all of Europe, but at least in France. So like all of so they use, I think it's glucose and sucrose syrup, which I don't know if it's any better, but I looked it up and it's actually not for like consumer health. It's more about like the fairness of competition, which is quite interesting. I tried escargot and beef tartare. Beef tartare, if you don't know what it is, it's pretty much just raw beef that's like chopped up, and it had capers, and it was seasoned very well. It was like not even that expensive, which like if you get beef tartare in the US, it's like $40. This one was like 12, and it was extremely good. My first time ever trying it. Like I was very skeptical because obviously it's raw meat, but it was honestly really good. Like I recommend everyone trying it just because you need to try new things. But I also tried escargot, which is snails. They had like a pesto sauce in them, and it was also very good. They didn't really taste like anything. It tasted like squid, a bit like squid if it was less chewy. So it was a lot more pleasant. It was pretty good. Also, when we got back to our hotel after dinner, all of our bags were packed and at the front door, and we had no idea why. And apparently, it's common practice in France that when a person is leaving, that night they'll like pack their bags, or if like they don't know if they're leaving, or if they don't know, like if they know that they're leaving, they'll pack their bags for them and put them at the front door. We weren't leaving, and it turns out that they had mixed up our room with the room next to us, and the room next to us was actually leaving that night, but they went into our room and shoved all of my crap into the wrong suitcase, mixed up with the person I was staying with, and then put it at the front door. And then when they realized their mistake, they called us and was like, yeah, we're sorry, but it happens. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I wasn't too mad though because they didn't like break anything. Day 3 comes around. My first time ever on an actual train. It was like, I guess you could say a bullet train. It was going like 300 kilometers an hour, so that's quite fast. But it was quite hard. It was quite packed, like hard to find space and luggage, just because we got there quite late. But it was quite a long time. This was also when we went from Paris to Lyon. It's about a 3-hour drive, a 3-hour train ride, I guess you'd say. And there was someone coughing that whole 3 hours. Don't know what's going on there. I probably have COVID now. If I was to move to France, I would much prefer to move to Lyon, not to Paris. Paris is very touristy. When we went to Lyon, it was insanely, like, a lot more chill, I would say. It's like, I don't know, it's just like it's not as big of a city, I would say. Just a lot more. And also the hotel rooms were a lot nicer. They like complimentary shampoo and stuff, and nice like dinner and complimentary like breakfast and stuff in the bottom, which was nice. They also had Pac-Man and foosball in the hotel. So day 4 comes around. We didn't do much this day just because it was pouring rain outside. It was raining pretty much the whole day. A good breakfast at the hotel, as per usual. They just have like amazing bread and ingredients, which is another thing. They just have good ingredients. Like, you can make good food anywhere, but they just have better ingredients, and that's just how they make good food. Also, I noticed if you ever go to a store and you see like a can of soda, and you can see there's like tall ones, like almost like a Red Bull can. It's very common in Europe to have those like tall soda cans, but they're just as expensive as like a normal soda. Kind of interesting. Also got a 1 liter of pure orange juice for $1.15. Well, that's in euro, which is almost exactly $1. It's like, I think it's like €1 is like 98 or 99 cents now. I don't know. Also went to a kebab place, which was very greasy and very unhealthy, but it was insanely good. So nothing too exciting on day 4, just kind of chilling out, just because it was raining so much, so we couldn't really do anything. Day 5, went and walked around a park that had this huge statue and this super nice garden with a water feature. I don't think it really had a name. It was just really close to us. Also got this weird Coke drink. I think it was like the store's version of knockoff Coke. It was called Classic Coke Zero, and it was 1.5 liters, and it cost 74 cents. Don't know how they get away with that, but it was it tasted literally like regular Coke, but it was zero. Like, it was pretty good. I had chance to try a horse steak. They were serving that at a restaurant, and it was actually cheaper, but my sister said no, and I was very mad. I wasn't that mad. I was like, whatever. Like, I would have liked to try it, because why not? Now, it is illegal to try to eat horse in America, just because, I don't know, just because. Now, like, my thought on this is, like, ethically, I guess, like, yeah, maybe a horse is, like, more important than a cow, but also a horse, like, when it breaks its leg from running in a race, they just shoot it and call it a day, and they just don't do anything with it. So, in my opinion, yeah, if some horse in a race was to get shot just because it broke its leg, and it's no use to the rider anymore, yeah, I think we should probably use the horse for something else, like feeding people. I think that's probably more ethical than just wasting the horse in general. But that's just my opinion, and it's probably wrong, but it's also just completely subjective. So, but I looked it up, and it is legal in France to, I think it's very special butcher shops can serve horse meat and like produce horse meat, I guess. I don't know if they can produce it, but like they can like at least sell it. So quite interesting. Didn't get a chance to try it, so if I go back, I'd definitely try that. Also saw a lady walking her cat at like midnight when we were walking back. She was walking this black cat. She was like an insanely respectable lady, like in a suit, coat, and everything. She was just walking her cat home. First and only cat I saw in Paris. I saw in France, by the way. Day 6, walked about like around like 3 or 4 miles to this huge church. It was like a giant. It's called like, I forgot what it's called. It's just this massive church though. It was very beautiful, very large. And then to an amphitheater that was like a little bit away from that. Super cool. Also saw a full skewered head of a sheep being cooked on like a street market. Like they're in an alley. You're just walking through. There's like a ton of vendors. Like a full head just being like skewered and cooked, like as it's rotating. Kind of interesting. Kind of cool. Also, they have extremely good carbonated water there. Like, it's I don't know. Like, I'm not a huge fan of carbonated water, but I bought some water and I didn't know it was carbonated because it's all in French, and I thought it was just regular water. And I drank it, and it was like ever so slightly carbonated, and it was actually really good. So that was day 6. Nothing very exciting. Just all the day was just walking around. Now day 7 was the last day I was driving back, or flying back, I should say. So I had to get up around 4 a.m. because I had to catch a train, another 3-hour train back to Paris, because I could have flown out of Lyon back to the US, but it would have cost like another grand to fly to Lyon for some stupid reason, just because it's not like name flight, and I would have had to have like a connection. So and also the train went straight into the airport, which was nice. So I had to get like 4 a.m. Go from Lyon, or go from Lyon to Paris, like 3-hour train ride. Also, yeah, again, something's always on strike there, which is kind of interesting. We're talking like the train conductor, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're lucky that you're on this train because usually the trains are on strike, but they're never up this early to be on strike. So, like, it's usually always the trains or the buses or the taxis are on strike. Like, someone's always on strike, which is kind of interesting, just because they want, I don't know, better pay or better rights for them. I don't know. It was extremely long line to get through the airport, like extremely long. Absolutely no one was paying attention. They're all on their phones. Like, people are like, the front desk ladies are like calling on them and like having to like bang on the window to get their attention. Stupidest thing ever. Like, people do not pay attention. Like, you're in the like a 2-hour long line and you decide not to pay attention at the end of the line. Doesn't make sense. We got to stay in a nice lounge with complimentary drinks and snacks because obviously my dad was there for business, and so his company like let us. Like, obviously gave him like a lounge to stay in, which is kind of cool, which I'd never been in a lounge, and it's kind of weird just to like just have complimentary everything. Also, I sat next to some guy and he was snoring insanely loud in the lounge. It was pretty funny and hard not to laugh. Also, a lady on the other side of the lounge had a duffel bag that just had the Reddit logo on it. It was like a Reddit branded duffel bag. I don't know if she like worked for Reddit, but it was very interesting, very weird. We also got a free upgrade. I got a free upgrade to well, everyone did, to like their first class, which is like ultra first class on a super long flight. I got steak. I got to have like my seat laid down into a bed. I had like a lamp. Like, it was so crazy. I had like a do not disturb button that I could push and they could just like not talk to me anymore. It was crazy. And it was like super good food. I like steak. I had this ice cream sundae. And then like right before we landed I had like a cheeseburger. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. Also, they gave me warm mixed nuts, which honestly, mixed nuts are really good, but when you warm them in a little itty bitty dish, it is so much better. So much better. I don't know why it just is. Also, I didn't get much sleep on the plane. Like, I got like 20 minutes, and that was just from like nodding off while I'm watching a movie. And so I'm insanely jet lagged because I slept for like 12 hours today, and I just woke up, so very jet lagged. I got in yesterday, so yeah. We had to stand in line for like over an hour to get through like immigration because you're coming out of obviously a different country. Some kid freaking howling in front of us, just complaining because he's tired. I don't know. Kids are very loud. Also, there's some lady in the front of or not even in the front, she was in the back, who's like right with us, in the back of the line saying, like, pretty much begging the attendant to tell, or not the attendant, but like just some lady that was like watching the line, that she needed to let her cut to the front because she had a flight in 40 minutes. And she was like, I need to get in the front because I have a flight in 40 minutes. And they're like, yeah, I can't help you because I would have to help everyone. She's like, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to miss my flight. I'm like, okay, well, it does make sense because obviously she can't just help you. Like, she would have to help everyone. And the lady was being like so nice to her, and the lady just complaining and complaining. And then there was some guy behind her that was like, ma'am, I think you need to help this woman. She's really stressed and she needs your help. I'm like, dude, shut up. This lady does not need your help. She needs to get to the airport quicker. Also, they destroyed my suitcase, so I appreciate that, United. It had like a hole. There you go, a whole hole torn out of it, and like the metal lining around it was like yanked out and like ripped out. I don't know how that happened, but insanely nice. So that was my trip to Paris and to Lyon. It was very pleasant. If I was to ever do it again, I probably wouldn't, because I would obviously want to visit somewhere else in the world, because why would I want to go to one place twice? And yeah, that's everything. Have a good day.